The night sky above Virilanine shimmered with 2 moons, one silver and one pale blue. The human colony lay quiet under the wind that moved softly across the open fields. Machines hummed in the distance, keeping oxygen filters alive and temperature balanced. For most settlers, the borderlands were a place to avoid, full of danger and silence. But for Alara, they were full of questions. Alara had always been curious. Her father used to call it a gift. Her mother called it trouble. Since she was small, she liked to wander where others would not go. The forbidden edges of the human zone pulled at her like a song she couldn't ignore. On her 17th night, that call felt stronger than ever. She waited until the family lights were out and the sky was bright. With twin moons before slipping out from her small cabin, the air outside was cold but peaceful. The path led her past low fences, marked with glowing signs that said, "Do not cross alien territory beyond this line." The signs scared others but fascinated her. For weeks she had heard something beyond them, a faint sound, almost like a heartbeat in the air. It pulsed softly every night, as if calling her name. Tonight she wanted to find out what it was. She moved quietly through the tall silver grass, boots crunching gently on the dry soil. Her eyes scanned the dark ridges ahead. Suddenly, the ground beneath her feet seemed to hum stronger. The air shimmered, and a faint blue light appeared about 30 meters away. She froze, heart pounding. Then she saw him. At first she thought it was just a statue of metal and light. But when it moved, she realized it was alive, an alien soldier. He was tall, almost twice her height, with smooth armor that looked grown, not made. The plates of his suit pulsed with faint light under his skin, giving him an almost ethereal look. His face was uncovered, strong lines, faint markings that glowed softly across his temples, and eyes unlike anything human. They weren't one color. They shimmered between silver and gold like molten glass. Alara gasped and took a step back, ready to run, but his voice stopped her. "Don't be afraid," he said. His tone was deep but calm, almost musical. She hesitated. No alien had ever spoken to her before. She had only seen them from afar, proud, disciplined warriors who guarded their borders and rarely showed emotion. "What are you doing here?" she asked finally, her voice small but steady. The alien tilted his head slightly, studying her. "I could ask the same," he said. "This is not your world's land." Ilara's fear slowly mixed with curiosity. "I heard a sound," she said. "Like a heartbeat. It came from this way." The alien blinked once. "That is the pulse of our field generator," he said. "It keeps the barrier stable," she said softly. "I thought it was calling me." Something about her honesty made him pause. His kind rarely understood human imagination. Most humans he met were soldiers or traitors, cold, wary, always afraid. But this one looked at him not with hatred but with wonder. He studied her quietly for a moment before speaking again. "You should go back. It is not safe here. What's your name?" she asked suddenly. The question surprised him. Names were sacred among his kind, shared only within families or sworn circles. For a human to ask one was bold, but something in her tone, innocent, genuine, made him answer before he could stop himself. "Kale," he said. Alara smiled faintly. "Kale," she repeated, testing the sound. "That's a good name," she told him hers in return. When he heard it, he found it strange yet pleasing, like the soft wind that passed through the glowing trees of his homeworld. For a long time neither spoke. The night was quiet, except for the hum of the barrier between their lands. Then Alara sat down on a small rock, folding her hands around her knees. "Why do your people stay away from us?" she asked. Kale turned his gaze toward the distant human settlement. "Because your kind fears easily," he said, "and we are taught not to cause fear." She tilted her head. "You don't look scary to me." A faint flicker crossed his expression, something like surprise. No human had ever said that to him. He was built for battle, trained for silence. But her words carried no judgment. The moonlight touched her hair, and for the first time Kale noticed how fragile human life looked up close. Soft skin, small hands, a heart that beat so fast. His own heartbeat adjusted to match it, as if trying to understand. They talked for hours about stars, machines. and how both races had once lived under the same alliance before fear split them apart. Alara's curiosity made her forget the danger, and Cale found himself answering questions he had never spoken aloud even among his own people. When she asked what the stars looked like from his homeworld, he looked up and said, "They breathe. Every few years, the light waves shimmer like oceans. We believe the stars remember the ones who look at them." Alara smiled. "Then maybe the stars will remember this night." Cale looked at her quietly. Something within him stirred, a warmth that had no name in his language. He had lived a soldier's life, filled with duty, without wonder or laughter. But here, sitting on the edge of two worlds, a young human had made him feel something new, something alive. As the night grew deeper, the barrier between their lands flickered slightly, warning that dawn was near. Cale stood up. "You must go," he said. "If the patrols find you here, they will arrest you." Alara stood too, brushing dust from her clothes. "Will I see you again?" she asked. Cale hesitated. "It would not be wise. But will you be here?" she pressed. He looked away for a moment, then nodded once. "Maybe," he said. That single word made her heart lift. She smiled at him one last time before turning back toward the human fences. The grass rustled under her boots as she walked away, but she looked back once and saw him still standing there, a tall figure of silver and light, watching silently as she disappeared into the horizon. When she reached home, the first rays of morning touched the settlement towers. She climbed quietly into her room, heart still racing, mind filled with questions. She didn't know what she had just started. A small act of curiosity would ripple far beyond her world. Cale stayed on the ridge long after she was gone. The moons faded, replaced by the orange sun of virginity. He stared at the ground where she had stood, her footprints already fading in the dust. He tried to tell himself it was meaningless, a moment of weakness, nothing more. Yet when the wind passed through the grass, he could still hear her voice. He raised his hand to his chest and felt something strange. His pulse had not returned to its normal rhythm. It beat faster, heavier, as though something inside him had changed shape. He looked up at the fading sky. "Alara," he whispered, testing the sound of her name the way she had tested his. It felt human and somehow right. Back in the colony, Alara couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw his face, those glowing eyes, that calm voice. She didn't understand why she felt drawn to him. He was not human, not part of her world. Yet she sensed something familiar in him, as if he carried the same loneliness she often felt. As the new day began, the hum she had followed for weeks was gone. The field generator had stabilized again, silent and distant. But in her chest, something new had begun, a rhythm that matched the strange pulse she had once heard across the fields. Both of them, without knowing it, had carried a fragment of that night inside their hearts. The soldier and the girl, separated by duty and world, now shared a connection that defied the walls built by fear. For Cale, who had lived by orders and codes, that single meeting opened a question he could not silence. What if humans were not so different? For Alara, who had always felt small under the vast alien sky, it sparked a new courage to believe that even one conversation could bridge galaxies. Neither of them knew it yet. But the night they met would become a story whispered through generations. It's the night when a curious girl and an alien soldier took the first step toward understanding, and the universe itself seemed to pause to listen. Days passed after that strange meeting, but the memory stayed with both of them like a mark written in light. Alara tried to continue her normal life school lessons in the colony hub, helping her mother repair old machines, tending the small garden behind their cabin, but her thoughts kept drifting to the ridge beyond the fences. Sometimes she caught herself staring toward the horizon, half expecting to see a silver shadow watching her from afar. Cale, too, found himself restless. His patrol duties felt different now. The border that once seemed clear and simple had become confusing. He was supposed to see humans as unpredictable, fragile beings who needed strict limits. Yet one of them had spoken to him without fear. She had laughed softly when the wind carried sparks from his armor. and she had looked at the stars the same way he once had. Before the wars began, he stood often at the same spot where they first met, listening for her footsteps. The generator hum covered the quiet night like a heartbeat. His commander, an older soldier named Varen, noticed Kale's distraction. "You've been distant lately, Varen," said one evening. "Is the human side bothering you?" Kale straightened. "No, Commander. Just the storms interfere with the sensors." Varen studied him carefully. "Be careful, Kale. Humans don't see us as friends. The treaty holds only because both sides fear another war." "Yes, Commander," Kale replied, though his thoughts were far away. That same night, Ilara couldn't sleep. A warm wind blew through her open window, carrying faint electric sounds from the border fields. She thought of the alien's calm voice and how he had said her name. Before she could stop herself, she grabbed her jacket and stepped outside again. The path was familiar now. She moved quietly, guided by moonlight. When she reached the tall grass, she saw the soft glow of his armor again. Kale turned as if he had been waiting. "You came back," he said softly. "I said I might," she replied with a small smile. "And I had more questions." He almost smiled in return. Humans always have questions. She sat down on a stone, just like before. Then answer one. "Do you ever get tired of guarding a line that no one crosses?" Kale looked out at the horizon. "It's duty. We keep balance." "Duty isn't the same as living," she said quietly. The words touched him deeper than she realized. For a long time he had believed that his life's worth came from orders and victories. But when she said that, he wondered what living truly meant for someone like him. They talked for hours again. Ilara told him about the human colony, about children born under 2 moons, about the way laughter filled the market when trade ships arrived, about her dream to study the stars one day. Kale listened silently, his expression unreadable. When he finally spoke, his voice was low. "Our stars once guided us," he said. "Before the wars, we believed every soul was linked to a constellation. Now, we only look at them through targeting systems." Ilara looked at him sadly. "That sounds lonely." Kale didn't deny it. "Perhaps," he said. "But loneliness becomes part of duty too." She picked up a small stone and drew lines in the sand between them, forming rough shapes of stars. "Then we'll make a new constellation," she said. "This one will belong to both of us." Kale watched as she connected the dots. The gesture was simple, yet it stirred something in him, again a sense that peace wasn't just possible. It was already beginning in the space between them, but peace was fragile. A sharp alarm suddenly echoed through the valley. Kale's wrist plate flashed red. Patrol units were moving nearby. He looked toward her urgently. "You must go. Now." Ilara stood quickly. "Is it bad?" "They're scanning for human trespassers," he said. "If they find you here, I'll hide," she said. But before she could move, a bright drone light swept across the field. Kale reacted without thinking. He stepped in front of her, raising his arm. His armor emitted a burst of static that disrupted the drone's signal, causing it to flicker and fall to the ground. He turned to her sharply. "Go. I'll cover your trail." Lara hesitated, staring at him. "Why are you helping me?" Kale met her gaze. "Because you shouldn't be punished for curiosity." She nodded, heart racing, then ran toward the human fences. Kale followed at a distance until she disappeared safely into the shadows. When he turned back, another soldier stood on the ridge behind him, Varen. "I saw that," Varen said quietly. "You shielded a human trespasser." Kale stayed silent. Varen stepped closer, eyes narrowing. "You're risking everything, Kale. Our code forbids it." "She was unarmed," Kale said finally. "Just a child." "Human years mean nothing," Varen replied coldly. "If Command learns of this, you'll be stripped of rank, maybe worse." Kale looked down at the fallen drone. "Then I'll take that risk." Varen stared at him for a long moment. "You're letting emotion blind you. Be careful, it will destroy you faster than any enemy." When Kale returned to his quarters that night, he sat in silence. The walls around him felt smaller than before. He replayed her words in his mind, Duty isn't the same as living. The next days were tense. Patrols doubled. Rumors spread among both sides that something strange had happened along the fence. Humans claimed to see glowing figures near the ridge. Aliens reported unauthorized activity. Ilara was ordered by her father, who worked in the colony watchtower, to stay inside. "No more wandering," he said firmly. "The aliens are restless." She nodded obediently, but her heart burned with worry. She wondered if Kale had been punished. Each night she watched the distant hills, but no light appeared. On the fourth night, she finally saw a faint signal, a quick flash, 3 times like a heartbeat. It was the same rhythm she had heard weeks ago. She smiled and whispered, "You're still there?" She sent a signal back using her old handheld lamp. It was childish, but she hoped he'd see. Across the ridge, Kale noticed the faint light through the storm haze. A quiet relief washed over him. Against his better judgment, he went to meet her again, his time hidden deeper under the ridge caves. When she arrived, rain was falling hard, drenching her hair and clothes. Kale stood just inside the cave's entrance, his armor reflecting the storm's light. "You shouldn't have come," he said. But his voice lacked anger. "I had to make sure you're okay," she said breathlessly. "They said soldiers were searching the border." "They are," Kale replied. "For me?" Her eyes widened. "Because of me?" He shook his head slowly. "Because I disobeyed an order." Ilara stepped closer. "Then leave. Go somewhere safe." Kale almost smiled. There is no safe place for traitors. Silence stretched between them, filled only by the sound of rain. Ilara's heart ached. She didn't understand his world's rules, but she understood what it felt like to be trapped by them. "Maybe I could talk to someone," she said. "Our leaders want peace, don't they?" Kale's eyes softened. "Peace is written in words, not hearts." "Not yet." Thunder rolled outside. The storm painted blue flashes across the cave walls. For a moment, they simply watched it together. 2 beings from different stars, standing side by side, sharing quiet understanding. Kale turned slightly toward her. "Ilara, you should forget this place. Forget me." She shook her head. "I can't." Her answer came without hesitation, and it caught him off guard. He wanted to tell her that feelings like this were dangerous, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, he looked at her, memorizing the way the dim light reflected in her eyes. When the storm eased, Kale guided her back toward the human side, staying hidden in the shadows. Before she crossed the last fence, she turned and said, "Promise me you'll stay alive." "I'll try," he said quietly. That night, Kale returned to his base and found a sealed message waiting for him. It was from the High Command. His unit was being reassigned. Their new mission? Prepare for a strike operation near the human colony sectors. Kale's chest tightened as he read the coordinates. The target was the area where Ilara lived. He closed the message and stood in silence for a long time. His reflection in the polished metal wall looked almost human in that moment, haunted, uncertain. He whispered to himself, "What have I done?" The next morning, war clouds gathered on the horizon. Rumors spread through both sides that the peace treaty was breaking. Humans prepared defenses. The aliens armed their fleets. The quiet border that had once held to people's secret meetings now became a line of fire and fear. Ilara watched soldiers setting up energy cannons near the town gates. She overheard her father talking to officers about possible alien strikes. Her heart froze when she realized where they were pointing toward the ridge. She looked at the sky, whispering his name softly, "Kale. Please don't be part of this." Across the field, Kale stood among his own troops, his armor darkened for battle. Orders echoed in his ears, but all he could hear was her voice. The night they met replayed in his mind like a dream he couldn't escape. He knew what duty required, but for the first time in his life, he wasn't sure he could follow it. The storm of war came faster than anyone expected. For days, the human colony prepared its defenses, while rumors filled the air. The skies above Virulani glowed red from the engines of ships gathering in orbit. Each side blamed the other, and fear moved through both camps like wildfire. Ilara stood outside her family's shelter, staring at the distant ridge where she had once met Kale. The wind carried the smell of ozone and dust. Every instinct told her to hide, but her heart told her he would not attack. She believed that somewhere behind that armor, the same quiet soul still remembered her. Inside the alien command center, Kale stood at attention while the orders were read. His unit was to strike the human energy tower, the one that powered the colony's life support. Destroying it would end the humans' control over the valley. Kale's chest tightened as he saw the coordinates. It was only a few kilometers from Alara's home. Varen's voice echoed through the chamber. This operation begins at dawn. No hesitation. No mercy. When the meeting ended, Kale remained still. Around him, soldiers checked weapons and synced targeting units. Every movement felt heavy. He walked to the observation deck, where the moons hung low, and whispered to himself, "Duty or heart? Which one defines me now?" He thought of Alara's smile, her words about living instead of only surviving. For the first time in his life, he wished he could choose differently. As dawn approached, Kale slipped away from his barracks. He activated his communicator and sent a signal, not to command, but across frequencies humans used. A simple message, encrypted and static. Leave the valley. It will not be safe. He knew it was dangerous. If command traced the transmission, they would know he'd betrayed them. But he had to try. In the colony tower, the signal reached the communications officer. He couldn't decode it, but Alara's father overheard the report. The message repeated the coordinates of the upcoming strike. "That's near our sector," he said. "Evacuate the outer districts immediately." Alara heard the alarm and realized what it meant. Her heart pounded. Kale was warning them. He was risking everything for them. She ran to the roof, watching the skies burn as the alien fleet descended. Energy bolts flashed in the distance. Humans fired back, but their smaller ships were outmatched. The ground shook as explosions ripped through empty fields. Kale led his squad into the sky. He could hear the commands in his headset. Target confirmed. Begin assault. But instead of locking onto the human tower, he changed the firing path. His ship released decoys that confused radar systems, creating false readings. To his soldiers, it looked like they were hitting the targets. In truth, Kale had diverted the blasts into the empty plains. "Captain Kale, your aim is off." Varen's voice growled through the cum. "I'm adjusting," Kale lied. "The storm winds are stronger than expected." Varen didn't answer, but Kale knew suspicion was growing. He continued firing false patterns until his system overheated. Then he landed near the ridge, near the place where he had first met Alara. The sky was chaos above him. Human aircraft streaked past while alien drones swarmed. Kale ran through the smoke toward the settlement, shielding his eyes from the firelight. He reached the field just as human soldiers spotted him. Alien unit. "Hold fire!" Someone shouted, but the panic was too high. Lasers flashed. Kale raised his arms and took cover behind a crashed drone. "I'm not your enemy," he yelled, though his voice was drowned by thunder and weapons. Then he saw her. Alara was helping evacuate children toward the shelters. When she turned and saw him, her eyes widened in disbelief. "Kale?" He moved toward her quickly, blocking a falling beam with his armored arm. Sparks showered over them. "You must leave now," he shouted. "I can't. There are still people inside." She cried. Kale looked toward the burning tower. "I'll get them. Go." He dashed into the smoke, his armor flickering from the heat. Inside the tower, the air was thick and hard to breathe. A family was trapped under debris. Kale used his strength to lift the beams away, guiding them out one by one. Every sound outside told him that Varen's troops were closing in. When the last person escaped, Kale fell to one knee, exhausted. His armor was scorched. But he forced himself up and stumbled outside. That's when Varen appeared through the haze. His weapon pointed directly at him. "You disobeyed every command," Varen said. "You've betrayed your people." Kale's breathing was rough. "No, I protected life, the thing we were supposed to defend." "You've lost your mind," Varen said coldly. "Surrender your command chip." Lara ran toward them, shouting, "Stop. He saved us." But Varen raised his weapon toward her. Kale's instincts exploded into motion. He stepped in front of her, taking the blast full in the chest. The energy flared through his armor, cracking the plates and throwing him backward into the dust. Ilara dropped beside him. "Kale, no, stay with me." Varen aimed again, but before he could fire, human soldiers arrived and forced him back. The air filled with crossfire. Varen retreated, leaving Kale on the ground. The fighting raged for minutes before both sides realized what had happened. One alien had protected a human civilian instead of attacking. Ilara cradled Kale's head, tears mixing with dust on her face. His breathing was shallow. "Why did you do that?" she whispered. Kale looked at her with fading eyes that still shimmered gold and silver. "Because you made me see what living means," he said softly. "You're not going to die," she said, shaking her head. "We'll fix this." He smiled faintly. "If I don't, promise me you'll tell them we're not monsters." She held his hand tightly. "I promise." A low hum grew around them as both armies paused. Word spread across communication lines. An alien soldier had shielded a human. Commanders on both sides ordered a ceasefire to confirm. The battlefield fell silent, except for the wind. Human medics arrived and lifted Kale onto a stretcher. Ilara refused to leave his side. The doctors couldn't understand his biology, but they stabilized him as best they could. The following hours were filled with chaos, confusion, and questions. When the dawn broke again, the smoke cleared over Varanine. Both leaders, human and alien, met for the first time in years to discuss what had happened. The image of Kale's broken armor lying beside the human tower became the symbol of something unexpected. Proof that compassion still existed between the two species. Days later, Kale awoke in a recovery chamber inside a neutral medical base. His wounds had been treated with combined alien and human technology. The first thing he saw when he opened his eyes was Ilara sitting beside him, holding a small book filled with star drawings. She smiled through tired eyes. "You're alive." He tried to sit up, wincing slightly. "So are you," he said. "The war stopped," she whispered. "Your commander was arrested. They're calling you the bridge soldier." Kale blinked slowly. "Bridge soldier. They say you built a bridge between hearts instead of borders," she explained, laughing softly. "That's what the children call you now." He looked at the ceiling, his chest heavy with quiet relief. "Maybe that's enough," he murmured. Lair opened her small notebook. "I kept the constellation we made," she said, showing him the sketch of the stars she had drawn that second night. "I named it after you." Kale stared at it for a long moment, then nodded. "It belongs to both of us." From that day forward, the field where they first met became known as the Peace Ridge Humans, and aliens planted trees there whose leaves glowed faintly at night, a sign that the barrier's energy had turned into life. Instead of division, Ilara often visited that place with her family. Sometimes she would see Kale standing by the trees, his silver armor replaced by a simple cloak. He had chosen to stay on Varela 9 as part of a peace unit, guarding not a border, but a promise. When people asked her how peace began, she would tell them. It started with curiosity, and with one alien who chose kindness over command. And when Kale looked at the stars at night, he always searched for the constellation she had drawn. It reminded him that even in the coldest universe, a single act of humanity could change everything. The moons rose once more over the valley, shining softly over the rebuilt colony. The wind moved through the silver grass, carrying whispers of that first meeting, a night when a human girl and an alien soldier broke the silence between worlds and proved that the heart of life, self, could outshine war.